Hey, it's Melody. Welcome to Magic Happens with Melody Who. Today I have a very amazing podcast guest. Dustin Hogard is with us. Dustin is, let me explain him this way. If you have Indiana Jones, MacGyver, and also a business owner, that's all rolled into one person. Ta-da! We have Dustin. Hey, Dustin, so happy you're here.
Thank you.
So, Magic Happens podcast, and I feel like you're the perfect person to talk about how magic happens in life. So, would you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, you just got back from your trip in Mongolia where you rode a horse across the steppe, lived in tents, met amazing people. You were on horseback and you were shooting an arrow and then you actually got on target. So tell me about the magic that is Mr. Dustin Hogard.
The intro you gave, the Indiana Jones, whatever. I think the other persona I'd put in there is like an 8-year-old.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think at this point, I don't feel like I'm that creative, like where I'm at in life right now. I'm not even that creative to like have created my life. I'm just really just riding what 8-year-old Dustin would have wanted to do. So it's basically me just doing what I wanted to do as a kid, and I'm just kind of living out that at this point.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. How did you grow up and what gave you the sense of adventure?
Grew up in a small town in Texas. I think that is super important. I loved the small town life. Not sure if I'll go back to that. I think it is important to raise kids in a small town, but I was raised in a small town, like the Leave It to Beaver cliche upbringing. Like on the street we lived, it was when you make fun of those classic 90s kids riding your bicycle around until the lights come on. We just didn't have lights. We didn't have like lights on the street, but otherwise it was that kind of classic thing. Had lots of friends on my street. And then I think around 10 or 11 years old, we bought a ranch outside of town and moved onto the ranch a few years later. And so I was raised on the ranch, and then that turned into what was the famous book, Little Ann and Old Dan. They were The Red Fern Grows. That's what it was. Where the Red Fern Grows. You read that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's
classic
gonna
book.
go on my list.
Okay, classic book, especially for kids to go read. This kid who got some hunting dogs when he was younger, just went out with guns and went hunting for raccoons or something like that. So it's like a classic kids book. And then there's another book, My Side of the Mountain, which is about this kid who runs off in the forest and lives in a tree and just lives off the land when he's like 11, 12 years old. So those were books that I kind of in a way tried to live my teenage years through. So I was on this ranch and literally had the dog, had the .22 gun, and would just go out in the woods and play in the woods. And so that was my teenage years, is just kind of grew up on this ranch and being able to be really free and play out in nature.
So do you think that is why you're so fearless?
I think the fearlessness came from trying things. I don't know exactly. We'd have to do a psychoanalyzation of it. I would try. I think here's one self-psychoanalyzation of why I might be fearless in like one integral part of my life. So when I was younger, I had like germophobia. My sister told me about germs when I was a little kid, and I got freaked out about germs. And like it was debilitating. Like I wouldn't eat with certain utensils. I wouldn't drink after my own mom. And I realized that it was holding me back. I realized like I don't.
At what age?
Probably 7, 8, 9.
Right.
Yeah. And that like it was to a point where it was really debilitating. It's preventing me from like eating foods, drinking things, doing things. I was just like living in fear, and I knew I couldn't do that. I didn't want that. And so I started doing the opposite of that. I started like drinking after some people. Okay, using different utensils, eating from the cafeteria. At the time, the germophobia was not built in complete logic. So some of the obsessive compulsive things I would do made no sense, but I broke myself out of that. So it was that little bit of inoculation of trying things, realizing I didn't die. And I think that's where it kind of
I
came
think
from.
you're still doing that right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
All the adventures that I've seen.
Oh, exactly. I mean, quite literally, I'm to this point, I'm like drinking weird drinks and eating weird foods and didn't die. Try something new. So I think that was off the cuff. That's where I think it might come from, is just as a kid trying things, realizing that living in fear and was really limiting the scope of my life and not wanting that. And then making a choice to push myself to do the uncomfortable thing, realizing the uncomfortable thing, I survived. In fact, it expanded the scope of my life, and like, oh, I like that. Let's do more of that. Let's try it again. So those steps outside of comfort and expanding my life in that way.
So tell us a little bit about your company.
Wazoo Gear, formerly known as Wazoo Survival Gear. I do like to tell this story because it's part of our lifeblood. We came together somewhere around 2013. I was living on a sailboat in Southeast Houston, Texas, and I was doing my own thing, had this company called Thunderbird Adventure Equipment, and happened to cross another guy who was doing something very similar in this niche product category that was kind of blowing up at the time. And it was very bizarre because I knew that industry pretty well and nobody else was doing that. And it just so happened he was living like 15 minutes away. So I contacted him, we met up, had some beers, and over beers we found out he was a former NASA engineer. He had quit his job, also didn't want to work this bureaucratic mess or work for a big company or work for any kind of like company that had that kind of controlling interest of him. So he was working for NASA, quit that, started his own little company, was doing very similar stuff to me, and had built a brand. He'd had like a big Facebook following at the time, no website, but had gathered a little bit of an audience on social media at the time. That was big as a Facebook. And alternatively, I'd done something similar where I started my own company, didn't want to work in the corporate field, and started my own business. And I'd really focused on the products. So we're coming together. He's a NASA engineer, and my degrees from the university I went to was advertising and business. But his marketing was better than mine at the time for his business. But my product designs were better than his. So you had the marketing guy who had done a better job at engineering than the engineer, and the engineer had done a better job at marketing than the marketing guy.
The irony.
Yeah. So I think at the time that could have been seen as a conflict, and it could have been seen as, oh my God, this guy he's gonna give me a lot of trouble with being a competitor. But we felt like right off the bat, like we need to combine forces. And to this day, this is our lifeblood. The other day I was being interviewed for a magazine or something, and he was asking me, what are some of your competitors, or what's some competition out there? I can't remember what the exact question was, but I don't feel like we have competition. I don't feel like we have. We've definitely had our fair share of companies knock us off, steal our products, do some nefarious things. But I don't consider them. I'm too busy creating, building, doing our own thing. I don't know what a competitor would look like. Like, I'm not. And if there is somebody else in our industry community that's already doing something, I purposely make sure I stay away from that. I let them own that thing. Or I would reach out to them and contact them and be like, hey, do you mind if I do something? Here's what it would look like. This is the way I'd like to. And that's just I think the way that we've always done that. And it's even evolved to the point where we created an alternative organization to help other businesses called the Campfire Co-op. And it's all about cooperating together. So that's when I like to talk about our company. I like to tell our founding story because it's now not only become our lifeblood and our culture, but it's enabled us to help a lot of other companies out there too.
If you're listening to this, can I ask you for a quick favor? Hit that subscribe button. It really just takes 1 second. Boom, done. So that is a great segue into, because I know a little bit about your background. I know that you have a strong consciousness study behind the scenes. How do you bring the balance of, non-competitive consciousness, all this love, we are all one, and business where, typically people think there's competition and then, one party copies the other and, like who's getting more market share? How do you reconcile the two sides?
Well, sort of like what we were talking about earlier. For me, I never went into business to be rich, and that's very obvious if you look at our finances. It's a means to an end. So For me, business is a way that I can affect the world in the ways that I feel like I want to affect the world. So I'm not going to do something that is counter to that. And that might be reputationally. That might be the way that we treat our employees, or the way that we structure our company, or whatever. Like when we make these decisions, it's all in this kind of bigger picture of, we're all going to die. Like this is going to be our life. This is going to be our legacy. The company might not last much longer, whatever, but while we're here, while we're alive, but while our company is also alive, what can we do to have a positive benefit for the world? And so I think having conscious decisions along the way of, are we going to be proud of this decision we made? Yeah. If we get called out on this and someone asks us about it, can we defend that? And so that helps me sleep at night. Like I don't want to ever do anything, because ultimately, like when you're alone in your bed and you're reflecting the day, that is the most important time to me. I cannot live with myself if I did something which eats me up in my consciousness. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe in some ways that's a very selfish way of looking at the world, but like I care about the way I feel about myself more than anything else. And that also obviously extends out to how do other people feel like what I'm doing. But ultimately my ethics, my morals, my consciousness is what matters most.
That's beautiful. I think the world will be a better place if more people function like this.
Again, I don't know if it's always like comes from a place of, I cannot live with myself if I did something. Like I can't imagine being like lying and having to keep a lie up. Like that to me seems like the most miserable life to ever have. So I'm like avoiding that. It scares me to think about that if I did something wrong, I wronged somebody, I did something that was against my own ethics, that I'd have to live with that. That scares the hell out of me.
I feel like that kind of foundation or value system is probably something
I had
that's
great parents.
very anchored.
I was also spoiled. Yeah, I didn't mention that at the very beginning, but I should mention. Yeah, I was spoiled. I had an awesome upbringing, both family and environment. It was the perfect combination. Like, so I was definitely spoiled. Yeah.
So entrepreneurship.
Okay.
It takes a tremendous amount of fearlessness, of creativity to carry an idea out into the real world. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started your business journey?
Some of these quotes, like, there's two types of pain. Though I don't know if you've heard some of these. There's the pain of doing the thing now or not doing the thing and suffering the pain later. You know, fill in the blank with all these kinds of pains of either choosing the life you want to live or not choosing it and suffering that way. I more so fear the other life. I fear the life of, and I think I realized this somewhere in college, of working for some big corporation and just butting heads with the corporate bureaucracy, not getting to have the creative freedom to do what I wanted to do. That's what I fear. I fear living that life. So I don't know if it's like a fearlessness as much of it's like when given two options, I ran away as fast as I could from the life of stifling my creativity, not having autonomy over my own life or business or whatever it was. For me, freedom is so important. The ability for me to wake up and choose what I want to do for the day. The ability to take ownership of whatever's going on. I am so fearful of being in scenarios in which I can imagine, I've not really done this a lot, where I was working for a business and something happens, the business, maybe it's a corporation, and the stock goes down a little bit and I get fired for that. Like what? Like my job is dependent on stockholder interests? Like no chance. So I want to be able to have, for good and bad, obviously there's a responsibility that comes with that, especially when you grow your business, you have employees and things. But I wanted to have full ownership of my life, and I wanted, if things are going good, I want to be able to have control of that, and when things are going bad, I want to be able to take responsibility for that too.
I'm going to ask a more personal, more intimate question. I know that you lost your mother a few years back, and I also lost my father 2 years ago. So it's kind of, like the timing was pretty close. Has it changed something in you or not? Or if it has, then in what ways?
I remember like literally the seconds I found out about it,
How did you find out?
I was in Canada with my dad. We were on a fishing trip. This was a fishing trip in which you do a fly-in. So they came and picked us up early. It was a little suspicious. For whatever reason, I wasn't suspicious. They flew us back, and he's like, "Hey, you need to talk to your sister." And as soon as they said that, just by the way that my mom's usually the contact, and I didn't know exactly what happened, but it was sort of like if you have a life and death, that your life flies before your eyes, whatever. In that moment, almost like my entire life, I could take in, like, not the past, the future. And when I heard those words, I thought, this is the moment, Dustin. Like, this is the time you step up. And I didn't know it was my mom's past. I didn't know exactly what the scenario was, but I knew it was something serious, and I knew it was going to be a forever life-changing thing. So I knew whatever I do from that second forward was going to be very important, and that this is the time to step up. This is what you've prepared your entire life for. If it was for anything, if you've ever done anything or learned anything, this is the moment to utilize it. So got that phone call, it went down, and pretty much from that moment and then onward, in my mind, it was, I want to make my mom proud, of course. I knew that I had to act very intentionally with everything I was doing, and I had to step up with courage. And I also knew that it was a very special time where, the only people I ever want to make proud is my family, my immediate family. If I don't, and it became even more clear in that moment, I don't care what anybody thinks. And that got ripped away even more so of caring what other folks thought at the moment. And when I realized that the one person that I really, really, definitely my dad's still around, and I definitely want to make him proud and everything, but my mom was who I would live to be proud. When you're asking about my, had a good upbringing. One thing I was so fortunate to be able to tell my mom this before she passed away, on Mother's Day. I think I mentioned it to her. I wrote a blog post or something, is that people ask me what did your parents do right? And I don't think it was about pushing as much as about pulling. Is they created really good examples for me to follow, and I always just want to make them proud. So things that I was doing was in that vein of trying to make them proud and doing the right thing in their eyes, so they would see that. And so that now that my mom is no longer with us, and I'm talking about in that kind of present moment, then there is nothing holding me back from just getting weird with life. And there would be things that I probably wouldn't have shared, maybe I wouldn't have spoken to my mom. I just didn't want to go down that avenue or embarrass her or anything about hey, mom, I do shrooms every so often, or hey, I did ayahuasca this one time, just because I don't know what it would be like in her life and her church life or something like that, and didn't want to stir that up. Fast forward, I'm doing ayahuasca with my dad a year later, in the jungle with him. I'm asking him, and he's in a fuck it mode too. He's no fucks left kind of thing. And so that no fucks left, when I realized that was kind of this special moment in time I was with, I tried to double down on that and really live in that. I think I've lost that, and I knew it was going to happen. I knew I only had a very short period of time, didn't know how long it would be. Yeah. A very special window of a time where there's not a thing a person in the world could do. I literally went down to South America, did one of the most painful things where you do this ceremony where you get stung by a bunch of bullet ants.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Because
Wait, what? Is it supposed to be kind of a consciousness, getting into an altered state because of the pain?
I saw a lot of people do.
Okay.
Some people pass out.
Wow.
And it's a rite of passage for certain tribes in the Amazon area. And the bullet ant is the worst painful sting in the entire world. It's literally off the charts.
Are you saying that's the worst pain you've experienced in your life?
Well, it was a physical pain.
Okay.
It was a physical pain that I went down, and I'd always wanted to do it as a kid, but I went into it, and there was not a fear in my mind, because it was I've already, and I guess I should mention that once something like that happens, my mom passing away, I've already experienced the worst pain that will ever happen,
emotional.
other than if I had a child and they passed away. And I don't have that situation right now. But as far as, but even physical pain, like physical pain is easy compared to emotional pain for me. And I guess I wanted to prove that to myself. Like when I did this thing that was really painful. And for me, it was just me, I guess, demonstrating to myself, like I've already been through the worst.
How long did you have to go through that ceremony?
It's a few hours. Well, it was 12, 14 hours total.
How do you kind of, like it's at that point, I think it's very mind over matter kind of experience. And you, as you said, you've already experienced like the worst emotional pain, but there's still physical pain that, your brain is kind of like, what's going on? How did you manage it? How did you go through that ceremony?
That's probably a longer story.
Did you use some sort of like visualization?
I tried.
Breathe?
I've done some weird stuff where I have like breathing techniques and different techniques and
how did you endure
honestly
that?
None of it worked. I to be honest, like I went through, tried different kind of breathing techniques that I'd been taught, and none of it worked. It was just like second to second, just like I was saying before, Wazoo Survival Gear was the original name of our company. It's now Wazoo Gear. We used to be a company who used to make survival gear. We've gotten away from that more. It's like everyday stuff. It's for traveling, it's for camping, it's for just wearing every day on your person. But our original concept was a lot of these survival things, and I still love studying survival techniques and survival scenarios and putting myself in close calls. So I like to study what to do in a worst case scenario. And I think from my simplest deduction is when something goes down, and it could be that suddenly something comes down through the ceiling right now. That has literally happened. Meteorites have done that many times over. There's plenty of examples, but that would blow both of our minds. And if it came crashing down, and then suddenly a fire came going through this room, extreme example, but our brains wouldn't be able to wrap around it. We'd go into fight or flight or freeze. And a lot of times people go into one of the ones that's not good for that current situation. And so the first thing you have to do is accept it. And a lot of times what we naturally do is like, that's a meteor. That doesn't happen. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't. And while when you're in denying the situation, you're not acting on the situation. So the first thing is accept it. This is it. Okay. Like the faster you can accept reality, whether it be you find out your dad's passed, you find out your mom's passed, you know what? This is not the time to debate it, whether it's right or wrong or shouldn't happen or doesn't even make any sense. What they say also, like in a military terms, like get off the X. Like if there's something happening, get away from the bad thing that's happening. Mm-hmm. It's not time to debate it in your head. So I think accepting the reality, and so just tying it back to doing this silly thing that I did where I'm getting stung by a bunch of bullet ants. I've chosen to do it. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to run. The pain is there. I can choose to try in some things, try to breathe, try and think about things, but there's nowhere to go. Just, this is it. This is your life right now. Mm-hmm. Like every second you're in this pain, and that's who you are. That's your identity at that moment. You're a person with a lot of pain. And then the next second you're still the same person. Eventually you won't be, but in this moment you are, so accept it. And I think that would be what I would take away from it is there was no escaping it. I think that was the beauty of that particular style of suffering, was there was nothing that I did, and I tried. I like put my hand in the freezer in the hotel. I tried breathing techniques. I was trying to do like different physical things, and nothing relieved it. So it was just accepting this is it right now. Now, eventually we'll be out of this, but this is who we are right now. So just go through it.
So, Eckhart Tolle with the power of now. Mm-hmm. I feel like pain is one of those mechanisms. There's no way that you can be in the future or in the past.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. How do you bring that kind of lucidity or awareness into your daily life in, what you do, in your relationships, in business? Is there any kind of way that, you can bring that with you?
Yeah, I don't know if I do a great job all the time. I think I'm in denial certain times too. Oh, finances can't look like this right now. Oh, the employee can't be doing this right now. Like, I also had that knee-jerk reaction. I don't think the bullet ant ceremony necessarily like turned a switch on for me. I think I already had that switch on. I already knew that little tidbit, but I think it was a reminder that that's how those things work. And I think reminding myself of acceptance of, look, what is the scenario? This is it. Okay. Now you can make choices to get you out of this, but there's wallowing around in it doesn't get you anywhere. Denying it doesn't get you anywhere. This is it, accept it. And so the faster you can accept it, the faster you can move towards healing or solving. So I think that would be the way that I try to integrate that in my day-to-day life and business and everything.
Have you experienced, moments like that where you're kind of like forced back into a corner, coming into the realization that there's nowhere else to go, and how that made creativity blossom?
When you were saying that, something kind of reminded me of is when we were a younger business and we were in Houston, we had our offices burned down. And it was one of those things, woke up, business partner's like, hey, our office is burned down. You go in there, and same thing happened. Like, it burned down, it sucks, but like, what was great is we both come from a background of like search and rescue, and at the time it was Wazoo Survival Gear. So we'd both been studying these kind of mechanisms of survivalism, I guess. And I'm so happy that we both were on the same page, because immediately it was not a pity party for the situation. It was, what are the next things that we can do to get it? Like, what's, all right, take a broom. Let's start cleaning this whole thing up. And even fast forward a few years later, we had this incident. We'd done this big Kickstarter. It's like a crowdfunding thing. And we got really burned by our supplier. Burned us so bad. And actually, it was like, seemed like it was cursed at the time. There was like 6 different weird things that happened that burned us. And we had ran through the finances that we'd already gotten pre-ordered. And this was like 6,000 orders of people who had already given us their money. And then we ended up like shipping over a year and a half late. And it was, I remember, those like 10 p.m. Times in the office where I'm sitting there, I'm kind of alone, everyone's gone home, and there was no options. Yeah. There was no options on the table. We had logically gone through, classic, like there's an option, and there was no options on the table. And I still was adamant that there will be a way. And I don't know where it comes from. I kind of feel like the word might be faith or something. And I don't know where, I wouldn't be able to tell you a lot about where it comes from. It's not like faith in a higher power, and not that style in this certain case. It was a faith that I want this thing to happen. Like, we will, this is supposed to happen this way. I'm going to figure out how to get it that way. And like, I don't accept that this is when we die. I don't accept when we fail. And so it was like some kind of weird, and maybe another word might be delusional, but
the lightest thing.
It could be delusion, but it was basically, this is not how this is supposed to go down. I don't accept this reality. I will continue to figure it out. So I remember thinking through, that there was no options. I had creatively exhausted all options on the table to solve this problem, and there was 0 left. But it was like, you know what? I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to keep pushing and keep pushing. It was like banging your head against a wall that was just like a brick wall. And for some reason, being delusional enough to think like, I'm going to keep doing it and I'll bang through. It didn't make sense. But we're here today because we kept on banging our head against that damn wall. And eventually we banged through it. And it was crazy to think about that. On paper, it was impossible at the moment. But I had a trust, a faith, a delusion that if we kept pushing, something would break.
There's a little bit of entrepreneurship that might seem glamorous, right? Like, you have control over your own schedule. You can, do all these things. Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, not so glamorous work. We've all experienced it.
Most isn't glamorous. Like, most is there's so much boring, annoying stuff.
But there's like brutality too, right?
You said brutality?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's like what you just described is brutal. Like, okay, you have like 0 options left. That resilience. Yeah. I feel like there's something, I don't know how you learn it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Right.
I don't know if I would say, from just me knowing people's personalities, like just knowing people and being able to like, I think it's one of my few talents is being able to kind of know people's abilities and where they would fit best. And
Which is a great skill when it comes to hiring and, you know, like really creating a culture.
And working with partners, like having, you know, in business, you have a lot of different partners you're working with in various ways. A lot of different, you're going to have to work with a lot of people. Almost there's no businesses that you can basically just operate in your basement by yourself kind of thing. You have to have relationships and just knowing, how to work with people.
I know, kids, even Mr. Beast has to work with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, of course he does. Yeah. And he's probably pretty good at it. I mean, it's a good illustration. If you've done good at business, most of the time, it means you're really good at reading people and entering into relationships with them. And then you're also a good person yourself. You have a good reputation. You don't get very far if you screw people. I've just learned that.
Completely agree.
Or if you can't read people, because people will screw you. I think in my limited experience of being able to kind of read people, I don't know if like entrepreneurship is for everybody. I don't know if I would think that like, I don't know if I'm going to try and convince everybody they should run a business in the formal, in the style that it takes to run a business in North America at this time, or America at this time. I don't know if I'm not going to try and convince somebody that's right for them necessarily, because it's not very glamorous most of the time.
It isn't. No. Completely.
Most people don't want that ownership.
Right.
Most people have families. You have responsibilities. Most people, and it's very risky. For most of the time, it's very, very, very risky, and it's not just you risking your own thing. Like if you have a wife and kids or whatever it is, husband and kids, like you can't just like risk that too. And then your relationships take a toll of the amount of workload you're having, and so. Yeah, I don't know if I recommend it for everybody, but it is one of those beautiful things. If you could do it, if you're able to stomach it, and it takes a tough stomach.
It's like having bullet ants.
Yeah, very analogous. It's worth it. The freedom makes it worth it for some of us. But again, freedom also crumbles some people. It's just too much.
Yeah. So you were a sailor too, because you lived on a sailboat.
I lived on a sailboat and I sailed around a little bit, but
I love sailing. And for me, running a small business, it's like you're out in the open ocean in a tiny little catamaran. Like that's how I feel about running a small business, because you don't have that big structure. You feel every single wave. But that's, for some of us, I think, there's a little bit of adrenaline junkie, at least in me.
Yeah.
I definitely see it in you, that somehow that's what you enjoy.
Oh yeah.
A little bit. Like if it's just like smooth sailing the whole way through, maybe you'd be bored.
No, and every single day it's you, like, even if you were highly successful yesterday, the next day, like, tabula rasa, you're starting over. Like you have to there's no guarantee. It's almost always quote survival, but it's always there's always a challenge. There's always new challenge. There's always up and down, and you live for the ups, and then it's the downs hurt. And then you just, eventually I think it does become smoother. I think you've gotten to experience the bigger waves, but
I've experienced the bigger waves. I don't know.
Like if have you gotten like, had a big sale, had big publicity, had something, something that was, like before you started, you'd have been so excited to have.
I feel like the pain.
Like opening this thing is so exciting. Like there's just so much big stuff.
But I feel like your pain tolerance does increase over time, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, that hurts, but yeah, I've had worse.
But also, is the sad part that the joy tolerance maybe also goes down a little bit?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. I do feel like, it's almost, I've never taken drugs, but the analogy sounds a little bit like that. Like you just get a higher high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do we bring mindfulness into entrepreneurship?
Well, I think a lot of the answers for life comes with gratitude, I think. And if you can return to that.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, like we were saying, like it's so weird these days, and we're not that successful a company, that big a company, but we'll have something. Like I remember we were in the cover of a magazine this last week, and there's not
Which one?
It's one in the UK.
Okay.
It's in the bushcraft.
But
We're also on another cover of another magazine this last month. Go backwards in time, not a couple years ago, maybe when I was first starting, and that was super exciting. That would have been super exciting. We hadn't had it, but if I'd have told myself we would have been just stoked. Now there's not even a blip, and that's sad because it's nothing's changed. It's still really exciting, but just because you tamp down naturally because you're well. Cool, we got on the cover of the magazine today, but tomorrow we're going to have, this other bad thing happen. We're going to have a vendor not produce the thing properly. We're going to 5,000 units and they're all improperly made, or we're going to have an employee issue or whatever. Because it's so you almost live in a place of tamping down your joys, and that's so sad. And I think if you can return back to the gratitude of really that childlike appreciation, then I'm working on through that right now. I know that I just come back from a trip, and I think our company just needs a little bit more excitement and gratitude. I think we've lost a little bit of that. Whatever the founders and the people at the top, it's your company, just like maybe with your kids. I don't know, I don't have kids, but it's a reflection of you.
100%.
And so I keep pointing out, I'm noticing my company's, the culture's not where I want it to be. And I keep on trying to point the finger, and I should be pointing the finger back at me because
that's the
3 fingers back at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's what I'm realizing right now is that we have lost as a company because of me. We've lost the gratitude for the small things. We've lost the appreciation for where we're at, where we're going, the opportunities, what we've done, and all that. And so I think it's always returning back to gratitude and whatever practice that looks like, waking up in the morning and just thinking through it. And then also I think we're going to push through. We have ways that we incorporate it into our company, but just celebrating the wins even more. Even when there's not something that's an obvious win, not on the cover of a magazine, but it's hey, just you can be excited.
Everyone showed up at work today.
Everyone showed up. We have today, tomorrow we're going to have a business. Today we do.
Yeah.
Woo, I got a business today.
Yeah.
That is enough. That should be enough. But, we get tolerant. It's crazy.
No, that's a beautiful reminder because I find myself in that same boat, so to speak. But, so I've heard somewhere that, there are all these different emotions and then there are different vibrational energies, right? For example, guilt or shame is way low on the totem pole. And gratitude is one of, gratitude and love is really high up. It's really when you just feel this pure positive energy, and it's very infectious.
And you mean
you live in that zone.
Is this, what do you mean by this totem pole?
The totem pole of energy
frequencies?
Yeah.
Higher vibratory?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's such a great reminder because, we get into our daily routines and sometimes we forget to appreciate the little things.
Oh, yeah. From a business, I'm happy I have a business, to life. I'm happy I'm alive today.
Finally, entrepreneurship is one of the best personal development tools. Because you really have to face whatever you are, and it just gets reflected and amplified.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're into personal development, start a business. For sure. That'll really, you think you're getting somewhere with your yoga.
Yeah.
Start a business.
Or get bullet ants. They both, they're both painful. So Dustin.
Yeah.
What is Wazoo Gear? What is the fundamental mission behind this company?
Our broad, big mission is to help people find and explore their capabilities, and to know that they have just wild capability is our term, trademark term, actually. But the quote that I like to steal from, I don't know who it's attributed to. They say Henry Ford, but I'm not sure if that's true, is whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And I think that's fundamentally the ethos of our company. It's why we're still around. It's because we've embodied that, but it's also what we hope to come out of our messaging, but also our product. So we make products that you can wear on you, that you can use in random scenarios. Could be when you're traveling or when you're camping or when you're in an extreme scenario. But it's functional pieces of equipment that is easy to carry on you, so you have it and you can always be ready. And the reason why always being ready is important, because it means you're always ready for adventure. You're always ready to take on and you don't have that excuse in your head of like, oh, well, you know, I can't because like I don't have the thing, or, you know, what if this happens? We're hoping to apply a little bit of confidence so you can explore those boundaries of what you are capable of. So broadly speaking, and it may mean that we don't make products in the future, but broadly speaking, we'd like to think that we're encouraging people to explore their wild capability.
That is such a beautiful mission. What is your personal mission?
It's pretty similar to that. Yeah. So I think the company and the other things that I do in life, this is an embodiment of that. I mean, that's the reason that the company has these ethos, is because Dustin has these ethos. And this is a way for me to explore that. The business is an extension of my personal beliefs. And so whether I'm doing something on social media, or whether I have a business, or whether I have this side organization, ultimately, I'm just trying to encourage people to do the thing that they're best on this earth to do, to not live in fear, to not live in a box that society has put you in, whether your family puts you in, or that yourself is putting you in. And we all do it. I do it myself, of course. We're all indoctrinated in various ways and conditioned in various ways. And it's always breaking out of those conditions that I think is where the beauty comes out of, whether it be something that you're exploring via your business or in your personal life or whatever it is. If you can just expand yourself a little bit and realize like you're special, you got something, you got a gift, you just got to feel comfortable enough to put it on display.
That is such a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. I can't wait for more, because I know we have more topics we want to explore further.
Yeah.
Final question. So the name of the podcast is Magic Happens.
Yeah. UMH.
Yeah. So if you have a farewell parting gift to, share with the world, how does magic happen? How can I bring more magic in my life?
Just look for it. It's out there. It's crazy. And you can say spirituality, you can put it to religion, you can put a name to it. But this world you can look at science. It's more than just this Newtonian physical world where we're just a bunch of billiard balls bouncing around. It is super exciting, whether you look on a big scale, small scale, look around. And if you're looking for it, you'll find it. It just takes the belief that this world has got a lot more to offer.
Thank you so much, Dustin. I'm so happy to see you and catch up, and we will see you next time. We want to bring him back.
I want to come back.
Thank you.
We'll just do all the episodes together. You won't even bring in more people.